Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna. Welcome to Vaishnava Voices, the #1 Hare Krishna podcast in the world. I'm your host, Sitapati Das.
And this is Dana Devi.
Welcome to everyone who's tuning into the stream live today. Please drop your comments, questions into the comments thread. We can pull them in. And to all of our viewers on the internet who are watching this in the archives in the future, many of you not even born yet. Hare Krishna, welcome to Earth. And we have some wonderful guests today, a panel. We're discussing the global conspiracy, divine and demoniac. We're going to cover CBDCs, the total surveillance currencies, economics, what's been happening in the global resistance movement, and all from the Vaishnava perspective of the Vedic worldview. So let me introduce our panelists for today, our special guests. Today we're joined by, let me just change the view here, Dhanesvara Prabhu, who is a disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, joining us from the United States of America. Welcome, Prabhu.
Thank you.
We have from, I'm just going to go around on the screen here, from Australia, privacy advocate and activist Paul Seils Jr., also #1 country, conspiracy country music artist. Welcome, Paul.
Good to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. And next we have Gaura Prabhu. He's another disciple of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the foremost exponent of Krishna consciousness in the West, joining us next to the Murti of Sri Krishna there from Canada. Thank you for dialing in today, Gaura.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Sitapati and Dana.
Hare Krishna. And then from the other side of the world, we have dialing in from the UK, Chris Briscoe, a devotee and friend of the devotees, who is a connector. He's the guy who got me onto the Gareth Icke show in December of 2021. So phoning it in with the shape-shifting reptilian perspective. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your in-depth, thoughtful commentary on the posts and the previous episodes. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to think about these things, try to connect these things together. It's really important. So thanks.
Yes, so we're connecting different parts of the world, the US, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Canada today. And we also have another guest who will be dialing in about 25-30 minutes, Badarayana Prabhu, another disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who's calling in from the east coast of the US. But to kick off the show today, again, to all our viewers in the live stream, you can drop your comments, your thoughts, your questions into the comment stream, and we can pull them in and address them as we go. But we're going to kick things off today with a presentation by His Grace Dhanesvara Das about the Vedic worldview. So I'd like to hand the stage over to you now, Prabhu, to present that.
Okay, thank you. It's when we're going to talk about what's going on in the world, it's extremely important. What is our worldview? Okay, and we're going to back up right from the very beginning with words. Words are our building blocks with which we construct our reality. We're living in a material world. Everybody's got a different understanding of the truth. And how do they construct that? With the words and how they interpret those words. Now, practically everybody in the world at this point in time has been indoctrinated into the atheistic, scientific, materialistic worldview from their education. And consequently, they've learned certain words that go along and explain that. Evolution, for example. Okay. Those words, they're, again, the building blocks of our reality, but they also create a box, right? That the box of our reality. And it's very difficult for us to think outside of that box because we don't have the words to do so. We don't have the concepts to do so. Concepts that match reality. You can create fiction, of course, but we're talking about concepts that can construct reality. Now, we'll contrast that with the Vedic worldview. The Vedic worldview is made up of a different language, the Sanskrit language, which is a spiritual language. And because it's a spiritual language, it has words with attendant explanations, meanings that have no comparison, let's say no parallel in the Western languages. So the Vedic worldview is constructed, it's a spiritual worldview that's constructed on a spiritual vocabulary. And this gives basically what you can say today, we say reframing of the entire experience. And we can see then the world from an extremely different perspective and how it functions. Understand from a different way both what the problems are, and then, of course, once you understand the problem, you understand the solution. Now, from worldview, the Vedic worldview is given by actually the Supreme Lord. And it's not that God put us in this world with, just, left alone in this place to try to figure it out by ourselves. No, he's given us full instruction how to understand our reality from both a spiritual and material perspective. Now that is presented in the basic fundamental spiritual text of the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by none other than God himself, Krishna. Now, what I want to focus on, the significant chapter for our discussion tonight about conspiracy, is chapter 16. Chapter 16 is divine and demonic consciousness. Sri Krishna, he explains that there's two types of people in this world, the divine and the demoniac. And he explains very briefly that the demoniac, they don't believe in God. They think that they are in control, that they can do whatever they want, and their purpose is to simply increase their happiness, their enjoyment of this world in an unlimited way. The divine, on the other hand, these are persons who are willing to follow the instructions of the Lord. The demonic, they don't follow the instructions of the Lord. They're going to do whatever they want to do. So these, in Sanskrit, these words are called the asuras, that's the demonic, and the suras, that's the divine. So there's a contest in this material world from time immemorial between these two groups of people. Okay, Star Wars writ large. It's been going on since time immemorial. And so there's always a struggle to see who will get supremacy of this world. So the Vedas, they give us some very relevant history going back about 7,000 years. There was a battle between the devas, the demigods and the heavenly planets, and the demonic persons. The devas defeated the asuras and kicked them out of the heavenly realm. And where did they go? They came here. They came to the earth planet. And this is recounted not only in the Vedic literature, it's also recounted in the Bible. And if anybody's read Zecharia Sitchin, this author, in his books, he's also, by studying the clay tablets of Syria, he's been able to also discern the same thing. So these demonic beings, they came here, and what did they do? They brought with them their kind of civilization. There's a lot of historians, they look at how did civilization seem to explode all of a sudden? Well, it's the demonic civilization that exploded when they came here. And we can understand the characteristics of the demonic by several things. They want to conquer the entire world. They're not satisfied with what they've got. They want to conquer everybody. So we see in the history of the Western world, there's whatever empire you're looking at, there's always wars of conquest and expansion. They also they want to again increase their pleasure, their enjoyment unlimitedly. So what do? They conquer people, they enslave them. Now, in those early years, enslavement was rather crude. It was done with the sword. And they took slaves, and if you didn't capitulate, you were dead. Very simple. So that went on for several thousand years. But then about 2,000 years ago, the Asuras, they decided that they were going to change their tactic. And they created a religion out of the personality of Jesus and convinced people to follow that religion. Their method of conversion was pretty simple. You either convert or we're going to kill you. So a lot of people agreed with that. So for the next 1,000 years or so, they controlled people with religion. We're going to control what you believe. We're going to control your worldview and what you understand. And if you don't follow what we say, you're going to burn in hell forever. So that was a rather convincing argument for a lot of people. Okay, I don't want to go there forever. But then when the printing press came around and people got to read the Bible, and they said, hey, wait a minute, we don't read here what you've been telling us. So then they realized that their control mechanism had some problems, so they decided they had to create a different method of control. So they allowed Martin Luther to post his 95 Theses on the wall of the door of the church. And they allowed people then to begin to have freedom of religion because they decided at that point they were going to control people with money. It took them some time to make this transition. I document the political economic transition in my spiritual economics book. It took approximately 300 years until they finally got it finished, where they had the currencies, they had the market economy, and another thing that was important that they had to create to make this work was a state government. So they created the state government to serve their purposes. They created money to serve their purposes and the market economy to serve their purposes, not to serve ours. And with this, we've been going along using the market economy. Now, fast forward to today. What do we have? All of us grow up in this world. We're indoctrinated in this way of understanding. We look around and we see the world. This is how the world works, right? Most people don't have the wherewithal to think about, well, how could it be done differently, or should it be done differently? And consequently, people are at a disadvantage. So they want to increasingly control. They want to increase their control. And why is that? It's very important that we understand the demonic nature in some more detail. And these demonic personalities have been studied by social psychologists or just regular psychologists. And so we see that there's several different characters, several different types of them. One is called the malignant necrophile, malignant narcissist. Another one is the necrophile, and then another one is the psychopath. But I'm going to explain a little bit about the necrophile, because this is one aspect that most people, they don't understand. And unless we understand the nature of these people, we won't really be able to understand what's going on. We'll think that, like many people do, right, that this is a benign world. Everybody's trying to do the best we can. Sometimes we screw up and, oh, shucks, my gosh, well, let's try to do better. It's not like that. There are demonic beings who are running the planet for their purpose, and they will destroy the world if they're allowed to. Let me give you a little hint about the necrophile. This is from Eric Fromm, who studied the demonic characteristics by observing the activities of the Third Reich. He explains that the necrophilious person, he loves all that does not grow, everything that is mechanical. He is driven by the desire to transform the organic into the inorganic, right? And as I read this, you can apply it to what we understand, what we have learned about this whole vaccination program and what it's leading to, transhumanism. To transform the organic people into the inorganic machines. And to treat all living persons as if they were things. All living processes, feelings, thoughts, etc. are transformed into things, something that can be recorded on a hard drive someplace. Memory rather than experience is what counts. Having rather than being is what counts. The necrophilious person can relate to an object only if they possess it. Second. So that's why we find the paradoxical reaction. They'd rather lose the world than to lose their possession of the world. Okay? So the idea of mutually assured destruction for World War III, this has no meaning to them. And it's very important to understand that. If they can't possess the world, then nobody can. They'll take it away. They'd rather die. They'd rather finish it than let it go. The necrophile loves control, and in the act of controlling, they kill life. They're deeply afraid of life because by its nature, it's disorderly and uncontrolled. Okay. Another aspect of the necrophile is his attitude towards force, which means his capacity to create a corpse. All force is, in the last analysis, based on the power to kill. Now, they may not kill a person, but they may only deprive their freedom, or deprive them of their freedom. Lockdowns, anyone? Or take away their possessions, right? It's 2030. You'll own nothing and be happy, right? But whatever they do, behind their actions stands their capacity to kill and their willingness to kill. Depopulation. The lover of death necessarily loves force. For him, the greatest achievement of man is not to give life, but to destroy it. Force is not a transitory action forced on him by circumstances, like for most people who only engage in warfare when they have to, when their back's against the wall. No, not for the necrophile. For him, it's a way of life. So it's extremely important to understand this. Now, what about the psychopath? The psychopath is a person who has no conscience. They have no concept of the difference between right and wrong. Whatever they want to do, that's right. And the only wrong in this world is those persons who try to stop him, right? So therefore, in killing those people, they are protecting what is right. Okay. You can see how in understanding this, you extend this to what's going on in the world today. Why? Because the entire cover has been taken off. They're showing themselves for who they are. And in these last few years, everything that I'm talking about here, we can see exactly explained. Rather, what I'm saying is explaining the last 2 years. Not only that, it's explaining where we want to go. Now, beyond that, where do we want to go next? They want to go to CBDC, a digital currency in which they can control everything that you get, everything that you spend. So their control is not going to be finished until what? Until they've transformed every human being into something that's controllable and transformed the economy into an economy where they can control everything. So I'm reading to you from the one chapter in my spiritual economics book, Divine or Demonic Consciousness. It's extremely important to understand the nature of these beings, because unless we understand this, we're going to misunderstand what they're doing. And when we do understand their nature, then we'll understand what a great threat they are, how they are controlling this entire world, and the great necessity to stop them. Now, I'll only say one last thing. How are we going to stop them? Because they control the banks, they control the economy, they control the military, they control the governments. They seem to be all powerful. However, God is all powerful, not them. And very easily, they can be defeated by God. And in this age, God manifests, he appears in the form of his holy name, the Maha Mantra, which is on the wall there behind Sita Bhakti and Dana. This Hare Krishna mantra is as powerful as the Supreme Lord himself. The Vedic literature give repeat the history. There's been so many contests between the Asuras and the Asuras throughout the eons of time. And in every case, the Asuras are defeated by the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So, although the situation looks dire, we needn't be in fear as long as we understand the solution to the problem is to take shelter of the Lord through his holy name and the Hare Krishna mantra. So, thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Prabhu. I just want to acknowledge that Gaura and others have pointed out that there was some crackling in our microphone here. I've changed something in the settings. Hopefully that will go away. If it doesn't, I apologize for it, and we will get it addressed before the next.
It's gone. It's gone. You're good.
Gone? Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for that presentation, Prabhu. This is Dhanesvara Prabhu's book here. It is Lessons in Spiritual Economics from the Bhagavad Gita, Part 1, Understanding and Solving the Economic Problem. So chapter, you were reading from chapter 6,
Chapter
7,
Chapter
Divine
7.
and Demonic Consciousness. Yeah. And that idea of the divine or demonic consciousness is you've further elucidated in your other book, which is Divine or Demoniac, Spiritual Movements and the Enemies Within. So we're talking divine and demonic consciousness. We're talking the global conspiracies, the divine global conspiracy and the demonic global conspiracy. And where Dhanesvara Prabhu ended that one on was talking about the CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, or as I heard them called this morning, total surveillance currencies, which give the government an unprecedented level of control over people and their activities. Mm. Anything that you wanted to say, reflecting on Prabhu's presentation?
I think I'm going to leave it to the end because it will relate to what's actually happening in the Hare Krishna movement. So,
okay,
yeah, we will
cool.
leave it for later.
We'll bring it later. So I'd like to cross over now to Paul Seils. Oh, no, first of all, I'd like to welcome Badarayana Prabhu, who's joined us from the road, it seems. Hare Krishna Prabhu, looks like you're driving at the moment, so we won't distract you from that important activity. but it's good that you'll be able to listen in.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Dhanesvara, it's great to catch your the end of your presentation, just the last 5 minutes. And Dhanesvara and I got to hang out about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just a few days ago. So he was over at my house, so that was wonderful to connect. So I'm very inspired to hear what everybody has to say. And thank you so much, Sita Pati, for inviting me on this this presentation.
Fantastic, Brew. Well, hopefully you'll be arrive to where you're going to, and then you'll be settled and able to do a bit of a presentation and reflection a little bit later.
Well, I will be driving for 2 hours, so I'm pretty much going to be on the road. But that's totally fine. I'm used to this mode, so it's all good.
Okay, great. Okay, Peru, well, we'll pull you back in for a segment in a little while. We're going to cross to Paul Seils right now. I don't know if you've met Paul before, so I'll give Paul a bit of an introduction and then get him to introduce himself as well. Thanks for calling in, Badarayana Prabhu. And for those who don't know, Badarayana Prabhu is a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he we read your Vyasa Puja offering to Srila Prabhupada as we were driving down to Nurturing Soul a couple of weeks ago, which gave a wonderful overview of the divine and demoniac conspiracies as well. Thanks for calling in, Prabhu. I'm going to switch to Paul Seils, the man of the hour or the moment. Paul and I go back to 2015. So 7 years now we've been working together, and I thought you were kind of crazy, you know, before 2020 with the 5G activism that you were doing. And 2020 hit, and then I was like, hey, this guy looks like he's actually ahead of the curve, and dove into it a bit better. And then, you know, I've been partnering with you in however I can to empower you in your activism in the last 3 years. It's been a real privilege for me to be able to provide whatever support that I can for what you're doing, Paul. Maybe you can give people a bit of an overview of who you are, background. And yesterday you spoke at one of the We Are Ready global events in Brisbane, particularly about central bank digital currencies. So I'd love to hear about that. Also about your #1 conspiracy country song, Hold the Line, which you performed there. So please give us an introduction and then take it away.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sita Pati. It's great to be, thank you for your kind words, and it's great to be with all of you here on this panel, but also people that are listening to this. It's a very interesting time. A little bit about my background. I was originally in project management. That was my background. And then that led me into privacy. I spent a lot of time in different parts of the world, including the Middle East. I had a very interesting time there, building a company over there in project management to about 65 staff. And then the journey itself sort of leads you to synchronous and serendipitous events, including very interesting things. I ended up meeting with bin Laden's brother in the Middle East, which was very interesting. And he had a large family of about 52 people. That's then subsequently led me into privacy advocacy, and then working with clients for the last sort of 4 years, 5 years or something, getting reset ready. That's what I sort of like to do to contribute to people. And then when I'm not doing my music, as you mentioned there, I've been involved in music for a long period of time. And the last single I released in Nashville early last year, Hold the Line, went to #1 in US country charts out of Nashville. So I think I sort of joke about it sometimes and say that activism is sort of the rent that we pay for the price for being on the planet. And in all consciousness, it's difficult to have awareness. The old saying is also, with awareness comes responsibility. And it's difficult at times not to, I find it difficult not to speak up, and having the knowledge and discernment to know when to speak up and when not to. But we're certainly living in interesting times. And yeah, my background in that area, being involved with aspects in relation to electromagnetic radiation and what's happening now, all that technology is all the research that I've done in different parts of activism is all woven itself in together in relation to electromagnetic radiation, what we're experiencing now with the whole smart city agenda, the transhumanist agenda, the total loss of privacy in relation to CBDCs, etc. Which, yeah, I spoke at one of the We Are Ready rallies yesterday on the Tweed on the Gold Coast, and talking to people about CBDCs. And I'm just wondering whether I can sort of recreate what I spoke about in that regard if we're ready to move into that phase.
Yeah, let's do it.
And it creates the preface and the context. So imagine living in a world where you are forced to operate using a centralized digital currency. A central digitalized currency that monitors and shares the data of every transaction you make with third parties. A centralized digital currency that dictates what you can and cannot buy, the quantities and types you can and cannot buy. A digital centralized currency that dictates which companies you can and cannot buy from. A digital centralized currency that, if not spent within a certain time frame, can automatically expire. A digital centralized currency that dictates what geographical location, district, or within which 20-minute city you are limited to only buy from. A digital centralized currency that integrates with a social credit system. Of course, what I'm referring to here are central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. What I am referring to here can no longer be dismissed as some fanciful conspiracy theory. The US, if they're lucky enough to survive their pending debt ceiling, is already launching the FedNow program, which is a precursor to integrating the CBDC system on the 1st of July 2023. This demonic, pedophilic, Keynesian economic system meets Big Brother out of control, like we've never seen or could ever imagine. The terrifying implications on what's left of our privacy, sovereignty, and freedom. Revelations 13:17, so that they not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. These are also the reasons why people like Julian Assange are being kept incarcerated, to stop them alerting humanity about these trials and tribulations we are about to face. There's a bit of sound effects for you. What we are witnessing is a slow, controlled demolition of financial systems, whilst they are attempting to get their CBDC systems in order to launch. We have in Australia the EAUD CBDC. As a former ASIC, Australian Investments and Security Commission Chairman Greg Medcraft stated publicly in 2017, a digital fiat currency, while convenient, would also be convenient for the government or governments, able to be taxed, tracked, and confiscated at will. Ultimately, over time, this demoniac system will destroy itself, but in the meantime, the challenge is for us to navigate this transition without participation. The only way forward is to unify, to stand with each other, hand in hand, to hold each other close as we experience this splitting into parallel economies. What these issues create for us is the opportunity to discover and embrace, or perhaps rediscover, other options such as barter and exchange, the gift economy and sacred economics, the economics of goodness, those that bring us together for a world that works for all, not just the 0.01% of the population. There is a way forward to the new economy. The masses don't see this coming. We are many, we are united, and we are ready. So that was my speech at the event yesterday.
Bravo.
And how did that go down?
I think it's sort of like a lot of people sort of related to it, and they're like, "Yeah, people need to wake up to what they're doing," and I think it sort of scared some people. And I have to be responsible for that sometimes. You know what I mean? I don't want to pump any more fear into the matrix than what currently exists, or what the demoniacs are pumping in. You know what I mean? So it's just trying to manage that education with care and balance and responsibility.
Dhanesvara Prabhu, you've got something you wanted to say about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I very much appreciated how you presented the option that we have, because as I see it, the demonic forces, they're bringing us to a world that we all want to live in. And if we can just look down the road a bit, we can see that they are paving the way. They're clearing the path. They're removing all the obstacles of modern civilization. And I've been after simple living in villages and so on, and trying to promote that in our Hare Krishna movement for decades. But the option is too easy, to just get a job and have money. But again, with the CBDCs, it's either we're going to embrace each other and care for each other and help each other, or we're going to be controlled completely by the government. So the government is doing a yeoman's service. They're actually, I mean, it's just amazing for me to see. It's wonderful. I could have never have imagined this, but it's wonderful to see it coming. Now, what we have to do is just take a clue from this, and instead of going kicking and screaming, to see what this is leading to and embrace it, and then voluntarily move in that direction.
Absolutely, and thank you for your contribution in our conversation for my speech as well. But the irony is as well is that you're right, what you're saying there in relation to like leading us in that direction and what we're about to become by default. In ultimately, the machine will sort of, or the cancer or the demons will eat itself. But it's really just this traumatic period of transition as we're leading into what people are describing as the golden age moving forward. And preparing them, because one of my sayings as well is if you're not standing and you're not staying in the light, we're going to be swept into the darkness. And I think one of the most difficult things that's been to be with recently is like all the trauma that's been created and projected onto humanity as well, which is very, very difficult to be with. So I think it's correct that it's like leading us into that destination. But the thing is as well is like how bad do we need to like let it become before we are able to, and I think a lot of people are conflicted about how they should stand. And and I think I'm really grateful to be appreciated, to be associated here with people like yourselves in relation to this level of spiritual development, because a lot of people really conflicted about like what some people would call either fight back or make a stand, or what they should do in relation to their practices, or how they should be in the world in relation to their highest and best contribution as far as what we're dealing with. And I'm wondering whether we could sort of speak into that briefly as well.
People need leadership. Most people, they don't have the wherewithal to see beyond 1 month, 2 months, maybe 6 months into the future. So the Vedic culture, there's different categories of people. The leadership, they're called Dvijas, the Brahmanas. They understand both the spiritual and material well-being of the people in general. And it's their job to create a vision for the future so that everybody can understand where are we going and how are we going to be secure. Now, the one reason why people become very nervous and concerned about the future is because they don't know where they're going to get their security. We're in modern society, our security comes from our bank account. Okay, we know if I got enough money in the bank, I can solve my problems. But if I don't have that, then where's my security going to come from? And for that, we need leadership to help people understand how to come together and serve each other and taking care of each other. All of us in society We have a different role to play. We have different skills and abilities. But instead of using them to serve only ourselves or the vested interests, we need to learn how to engage our skills in service to each other. Then we have real security, right? I've got your back and you've got mine, and we've got 20 other men, 20 other women involved who are taking care of each other. We've got more security that way than we have in a world where I'm just depending on my bank account.
It's powerful. Thank you, Prabhu. I want to speak to something that you were talking about there, Paul, the fear, you know, and the doom kind of context. We're all doomed, you know. It's pointless for us to even try to resist, right? Resistance is futile, which is where people easily go to, you know, once you get present to the enormity of the conspiracy of what's going on and how deep it is and how widespread, you know, you spoke about awareness and the responsibility of activism. I had to pass through that myself in 2020 once I started like really investigating, looking into it. I was like, okay, we are really screwed, you know, and the doom was right there. Something that Dhanesvara shared with me is I found very powerful in that. And, you know, at the beginning in the presentation, Dhanesvara was saying about how reality is constructed in language and how reality really is a fiction, you know, as humans experience it. It's created in words, you know. Is money real? You know, is you know, the worldview we inhabit, it's created in words. And that doom, and we're doomed, is also a fiction. It's created. So Dhanesvara Prabhu put it to me like this, you know, we're in a movie, basically, and it's either an adventure movie or it's a horror movie. And the difference between the two is that in the adventure movie, you know that the good guys win. You just don't know how they're going to do it, right? It's like, I don't know how they're going to get out of this one, but I do know that they do somehow. But it's exciting. It's suspenseful. It's a bit of a mystery how they're going to do it. Whereas in a horror movie, everyone dies, you know, and that's the difference between the two. And so we're in an adventure movie, and this is my sense of what's happening here is that humanity is voting for these two different futures that we see unfolding before us. Because, like it or not, the Asuras, they are dismantling, demolishing the existing order, the existing socioeconomic structures, the political structures. They're being demolished. But what will replace them is as yet undetermined, you know? It's like they have a vision for a technocratic, totalitarian state with a central bank, digital currencies operating like a panopticon, you know, like a single guard tower in a round prison where they can see what everyone's doing and control everything. That's what they want. But then there's another future, which is with the collapse of all this globalized control system, which we think of as being for our convenience and safety. But this global control system, as it collapses, there's the opportunity for the emergence of a divine, you know, collaborative, sacred economics, as you're pointing to. And humanity, we really get to vote with our consciousness, what we give our attention to, what messages that we're speaking and repeating, and then how actions flow from that. So we're in a campaign, you know, we're in a campaign voting for the future of humanity, and it's either going to be an adventure or a horror story, and how we're living in the campaign really determines how other people take it, and you know, where we end up from there. So I'm interested to get your thoughts on that, Badarayana Prabhu, and then we'll go back to you, Paul.
Yes, I love the analogy of the adventure, the Indiana Jones movie, as opposed to the Stephen King movie. And,
yes.
Because, you know, especially in the first few Indiana Jones movies or a Star Wars movie, we see that there was the quintessential good versus evil. And on the side of the good, you know, you have the Holy Grail. You know, the Germans tried to capture the Holy Grail, but the Holy Grail, once they opened if you remember that scene in the first Indiana Jones movie, they opened it was almost like this trunk that enclosed the Holy Grail, and as they opened it, I'm sorry?
Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant. Thank you very much. And you could see that the wrath of the heavens, the wrath of God, was upon those who were malefic in intent, the Nazis at that time, of course. But it was, again, this quintessential good versus evil. So what I see is that, yes, we have to have that faith because Bhagavan, Krishna, God, is all powerful and all good. And we know at the end of Bhagavad Gita that it is declared by Sanjaya, wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, the supreme Godhead, wherever there is a proper understanding of God as the supreme controller, the supreme friend, the supreme benefactor, the supreme giver of justice and righteousness, and Arjuna, the valiant spiritual warrior, there will certainly be victory, morality, etc. So the faithful people, of which we are all of that ilk, and there are so many like us, we should take great faith in that proclamation. And what I see is that there's a great hope in what's going on, because there is, as the plans of the Asuras become accelerated, we understand that there's a 16-year plan to destroy America. We can go into detail what that is or was or is currently now. It got set back when Trump was put into office. But amidst that plan, because the Asuras were held back from tiptoeing that plan in, they had to accelerate things. We see this with the installation of the Joe Biden so-called presidency, and we see this acceleration of the destruction of free speech, the weaponization of the Justice Department, also you see it in Canada, the kind of fascist totalitarian Castro Trudeau regime in Canada, and we see that people are waking up and going, oh my God, we are actually living in a kind of as you said, a technocratic oligarchy, tyrannical government that is not only tiptoeing, but it's coming in like a fast-moving tsunami to engulf everyone. People. So there's a great awakening in the populace, but within the great awakening, there's another spiritual of the
Sounds like you're going through a dead spot.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you just went through a dead spot. Yeah. Yep. You said you were saying.
Can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah, we can.
So, for instance, there's one great writer and speaker and Dr. Naomi Wolf. She was previously, for many years, a very famous feminist, liberal, women's rights, and through the whole COVID experience, she has had a total transformation. When she saw the horror of what was actually what the COVID paradigm was and what the agenda and intention was, after investigating the evidence, she was previously more or less an agnostic or an atheist, and she has become a very awakened being that has put great faith in God and God's plan and her mission to help wake people up and bring people back to traditional values. So we see that this although there's the horror story aspect of this tyrannical, atheistic, empirical technocracy, scientism taking over the planet, there's simultaneously this volcanic force of awakening of the spirit of freedom and dependence on God that is arising in the public, and we know who's going to win. So our duty is to fortify ourselves spiritually every day through some type of sincere, genuine spiritual practice. In the Krishna conscious paradigm, it is the chanting of the holy names, which can be done in any spiritual tradition. to fortify ourselves with the connection with God and purifying our heart and our consciousness, so we have the inner fortitude to truly act as warriors and be used as instruments to bring about this great awakening within the great awakening. Because the ultimate freedom is to be liberated from this mess of this material world in the first place. But for that to happen, we also have to have an environment where there can be freedom of religious expression. And we see with the Noah Yuval Hararis of the world that they want to wipe that, erase that spirit through their CRISPR technology, their AR technology, actually remove the gene for religious expression with the DNA aspect of religious expression, which they have the technology to do. So it is such a great fight that we're in. It's a Kurukshetra version 2, time in history. And those who don't see that, they're going to be left on the wrong side of history. So we have, so it's very exciting. And again, I really appreciate this perspective of looking at it as a great adventure movie, and we will be the victors.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu. And I'm sure people who are watching are going to wonder this. So I just checked, and it's legal to drive in the state where you are using a hands-free kit while on a call. And yeah, thanks for making it work. And don't worry about looking at anything that's happening on the screen. Just keep listening in. And thank you so much for your contribution, Prabhu. I'd like to get your reflection on that, Paul, before we cut across to Chris in the UK. So, Paul, share with us your thoughts about what we've been talking about so far.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's a bit of a refresher, actually, and for us to be in the conversation about creation. And there's definitely been, and I know I've been prone to it myself, this sort of addiction to talking about the problems or like what's not working. But what I'm getting here and coming back to is we're entering a renaissance, and for us to be, there's a duality, the duplicity of being able to have your awareness about like what's happening, but also be in the creation for the conversation and focus for what you're creating simultaneously as well. So I think it's yeah, it's definitely an exciting time to be alive, and for us to come back to that remembrance of life is a movie, and it's we're writing the script in our languaging and in our speaking and in our attention every day, and we're part of a community. And I think it's you know, wealth is not just about money; it's also about like what you're spending your time on, what you're spending your attention in, what you're creating. And I think we're definitely entering a period of time, and we're standing on, to a certain degree, we're also standing on shoulders of giants as well that have gone before us and contributed to this point in time, and certainly even in relation to our ancestors. But we're I think it's important to have that remembrance of who we are and what we're out to create and what we're in the conversation for. It's a beautiful reminder.
Fantastic. I'd like to, we're gonna cut across to Chris, but before that, Gaura, can I just get you to grab the Alien Identities or Parallels book so people can see that? Gaura and I were talking this morning about this book, Alien Identities, by one of Gaura, Badarayana, and Dhanesvara Prabhu's godbrothers, Dr. Richard L. Thompson, Sariputta Prabhu, Ancient Insights into Modern UFO Phenomenon. And the original title for this book was that the author wanted was Parallels between modern UFO alien phenomenon and the Vedic version. This was the second book I got after Bhagavad Gita. I went to a preaching center, a Krishna Conscious Center, and they had a box of books. I was reading this book, and in there, he kept referring to this other book, which was the source of everything, called the Bhagavat Purana. And so I was like, well, you know, this Bhagavat Purana, it's obviously the next book that I need to read. So I say to the devotee there in the center, like, hey, the next one I need to get is this one called the Bhagavat Purana. Do you have that book? And oh, Gaura's got it up here. Hang on, he's showing us some more from it. Okay, here's an idea of what's in the book: a survey of the UFO literature, science and the unidentified UFO reports, close encounters. So this is all the first section of the book: physical traces, electromagnetic effects on cars, the role of the government, the CIA, the Condon Report, deep dark conspiracies, disinformation in Majestic 12. Yep, we're at the bottom of that page, Gaura. And when did this book come out? When was the book released, Gaura?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the front here. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep, you're loud and clear.
Okay, first printing, copyright is 1993. Second printing was 1994.
1993 and 94. So I got my copy of that book in 1997. So the first section's got UFO abductions, contactees, channels and communication. And then in section 7, I think it is, if you can, oh no, that's 5. What's section 6? Part 2. So part 2 is the Vedic parallels to UFO phenomenon. That's the section where it talks extensively about the Bhagavad Purana. Okay, thanks for that, Gaura Prabhu. So I say, I need to get this book, the Bhagavad Purana. It's the next one that I need to get. Do you have it? And the devotee's like, yep, we've got it. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll take it. And then I notice that she's not going to get it. So I'm like, hey, this Bhagavad Purana, this is the book I want. Where is it? And then she says to me, it's 18 book volumes and it costs $650. I was thinking it was going to be like a $30 book or something. Anyway, it's Krishna's arrangement, because by this stage I talked it up so big that I was like, sure, go get it. My mind was freaking out. Oh, 1 second. My wife took out a headpiece and it started a video here in the background. So that's how it's okay. That's how I got the Bhagavad Purana and started diving deep into this Vedic understanding. And then it was shortly after that I think the book is called The Truth Will Set You Free, which is a book by David Icke, and it talked about shape-shifting reptilians, and it also went back through the historical kind of record. So we've got Chris Briscoe on the stream with us today. Chris is in the UK, and he's the one who got me onto the Gareth Icke show. And I wanted to bring Chris on to really talk about the parallels and the connections between the different groups in the awakening within the awakening, as Badarayana Prabhu coined the term. So welcome, Chris. I'd just like to give you the opportunity to give your reflections and really to just say whatever you want to say. Whatever you could say, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Thank you.
Well, I'll do my best, but I mention a little bit about myself, but at the moment, what I believe in is trying to get things connected. Like, for instance, regarding David Icke and Krishna consciousness, both really deep subject matters, and if they can be connected or see that so many of the similarities, then that's a great thing. But as for me, about those two, I was introduced to those two big concepts in 1992. As at university, got a David Icke book, like Love Changes Everything. That's one of the very first he ever wrote in this. And a few months later, I was met a devotee on the street in London, and they have strange, sometimes strange ways of doing big distributions. So somebody said, "Oh, do you like books?" Just like that. So I said, "Oh yeah, I've got one," and I showed them this David Icke book. But whilst I was doing that, I saw this front cover of this of On the Way to Krishna, this book, and I just love the cover. Just something connected me with that. But he just saw me putting up this David Icke book, and he just went away. But I went after him and said, "Yeah, I will get this," and I will get this. And so I got that book. So 92, that's when I first started with this. I was a student, and next year I was doing an intense course. Anyway, got qualification, but I just found if I had to, in order to get ahead, I had to work probably outside of ISKCON or anything. I just didn't. I didn't feel that was going to be the way forward for me. Late 90s, met fantastic Indian couple in the Soho Street Temple, really cultured though, and did some work for them, did some research for them regarding the beginnings of Krishna consciousness in this country, in the UK, as all the devotees will know that story. But to find out the newspaper reports of them is quite nice. Like they go to Oxford Town Hall, 1969, what happened. Anyway, this is interesting. But the following year, they didn't get on well with the temple management. Maybe they thought it was a federal, whatever the situation was. That's a long story. But I decided when they left, I would do the 31st anniversary festival at London. So I did that. That's probably the best thing I've done. But around that time, I was looking online, coming up with this, seeing all these whistleblowers who've been, talking about book changes and things weren't getting done. So, I got away from that. Just got on with my with my life. Around about 2005, I started getting a lot of the old books on original books, Bhagavatam's, Chaitanya Charitamrits, all this sort of stuff. 2013, got a Bhakti Sastra degree at the Bhaktivedanta manor, but I felt I'd learn a lot more just reading the thing by myself. But I just thought I'd go back in because I haven't been there for a while, and just to see what it's like just about 10 years later, just see what I've done a bit of my life with, who were these people, and anyway, fast forward to this year, to 3 years ago, at the beginning of this whole COVID, COVID scam. I mean, for the first 2 weeks, I was thinking, I was bleeding. I thought, oh, this is serious, this problem. Then I just realised, it was just one-sided story. I couldn't. And where's the other side? What's the other side? And so I looked back at David Icke, and he was at that time. He was thinking, he wasn't quite coming out saying it was a scam, but pretty much there. This was March 2020. He thinks about what he's doing before he says something contrary to what a lot of people will say about him. Oh, he's some nutter. That's totally not the case. When you get to know these people, when you believe in something, you want to study it a bit more. It's like devotees with Srila Prabhupada. So much every single meeting he had, or almost these disciples of Prabhupada would be very, very interested in them. They'll understand it. They'll get much more of a sense of him. I mean, there was a guy on here called Badarayana.
It's Badarayana.
Badarayana. I know it's not Narayana. It's Badarayana.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. There was Memories of Prabhupada on YouTube somewhere, and right at the end of it, he gives a fantastic piece saying how much how you can really drill down into what Srila Prabhupada was like just by looking at his letters to his disciples, all kinds of things like that, things that can be overlooked pretty brilliantly. So anyway, such is the way to study, get into the depth of him a bit more. With me, I mean, to me, I find that profound, but also I'm into what David Icke's about, and his main interest is not actually conspiracy, even though he's done like 33 years of this. His real interest is in nature of reality. Now he doesn't subscribe to from what I gather, a god, because a god-like figure, because there would be the tendency to think, oh, anything that professes to be a god is this some kind of control thing. But so there's that there, but there's so much profound stuff he says, and I would like to. There was a post I think put up by Gaura Prabhu about a month ago. It was from this book that I've got. It's let's get this on the screen. Collected Lectures on Bhagavad Gita as it is, by Prabhupada. It's a 7-volume thing, and there was a what do you have it? Bhagavad Gita 9:20 to 22, New York. Well, very early on, 1966. But he's basically talking about the two types of transcendentalists, and you have that. I think in the the introduction to Sri Upanishads, right at the end of that, you've got him talking about there are two different types of transcendentalists: the personalistic, the impersonalistic, but he puts it so nicely, because there's a tendency in ISKCON to think, impersonalist is bad, something really not good. But he sees this in he sees this in the way that Krishna puts it to Arjuna in the beginning of the second chapter, when or maybe at the first chapter. Anyway, Arjuna is giving all these doubts, and Krishna says, how have these impurities come upon you? They're not at all befitting a person who knows the progressive values of life, not higher values, this is book changes. This is the thing that made me want to leave.
That was the first edition translation you just gave there. Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So the progressive values of life, which means a proper Aryan or a civilized man will know this bit, not just the higher values of life. You see, there's a big difference. So really important. I think this is a big thing to help for devotees in relating to this what is going on in the world, because regarding to be so blunt about this, what is Krishna consciousness? It is pretty much just that, reviving one's relationship with Krishna, God. But Krishna's very much up there. How can one relate? I think this is a difficulty sometimes. Well, who are devotees to think, this is just that can be difficult. But as I said, progressive values of life. Anyway, this Bhagavad Gita. I don't want to. If I can. I don't know. Is it okay if I read out a little bit of this, or have you from what?
Yeah, please do.
Right,
please do. And then, could you just give us the reference again so that listeners, including me, can find it? So it's Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it's chapter 9:20 to 22, but it's not in the Bhagavad Gita itself. It's from a lecture he gave on the Bhagavad Gita. In New York in 1966. It's December 66. December the 6th, 1966.
Okay, if any of our viewers who are on the stream right now want to look that up on the database online, Bhagavad Gita 9:20 to 22, the lecture that was given in New York on December 6, 1966. If you're watching and you can, if you want to look that up and then drop a link into the comments, that would be amazing. And we're going to hear Chris reading an excerpt from this important lecture right now live on the stream. Take it away, Chris.
Okay. Well, I won't do the verse. I'll go straight in. So it says, now Lord Krishna has described different types of transcendentalists. First, he has described about the Mahatma, the great soul, and their symptoms have been described, that satatam kirtayantamam. They are engaged 24 hours, cent% in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Yatantas chadrita vritaha. And trying to serve the Lord very carefully with vow. So vow would mean somebody who's taken the initiation, made the vow. No, anyway. So they are first-class transcendentalists, or the great soul. And then second class, those who are trying to understand the Supreme, the absolute truth, by identifying himself with the Supreme, that I am the Supreme. This I have already explained. This I am Supreme means I am part and parcel of the Supreme, of the same quality. So these people, these devotees, not exactly devotees, transcendentalists, they doing that when they are a little more advanced, and if by chance they get association of another pure devotee, then he can understand that I am not supreme, that I am part and parcel of the supreme. Then he makes further advance, and the ultimate goal, as I have several times explained before you, ultimate goal is to know Krishna or the Supreme Lord. That is the ultimate goal. So that's all our, so it says this direct method, but I won't go on. But he puts it in such a way that these second class these second class people, they will not exactly be following Krishna, but they're pretty close. They're almost there. And to me, David Icke, he'll say, we'll transcend this material. We transcend this prison house or material bubble by realizing that we are part of the great spirit of, as it were. So in this way, you're getting out of this. You're getting out of this problem. Now, I noticed. So this is something. This is a good start. I think there has to be a case of the value of this. Now, what Dhanesvara Prabhu was saying early on about the solution to getting out of chanting Hare Krishna and Harinam Sankirtan. This is the solution spiritually. But amazingly, this can be. I mean, I'm not very good at this. You guys are better than me. But one thing I've been reading, for inspiration, a book called Angel book. I've been reading that not once. I've been reading it twice. It's amazing what you can learn about a book if you go through twice. I found that I did that with Dhanesvara's book, but this sometimes, put it this way, Angel is sometimes criticized. What are you doing? You're just doing Harinam Sankirtan. But this was his service, main service, among so many other things he's doing, inspiring devotees, incredible. It's unbelievable. I put words to it, but he actually, because he did the Sankirtan so well, so expertly, but also from the heart, that the intent was the main thing. He was just he was doing these Vrindavan mellows. Devotees were snapping it up around the world, and it's such a incredible service that the quality of the Harinam in Vrindavan, in the holy place, so which is birthplace of Lord Krishna. So yes, what was I saying? I was just basically saying something like David. And the other thing I just want to say before I'll stop, going to Standing Park or going to these demonstrations or whatever, especially a big point. I've heard so many people who went to the Canadian truckers demonstrations. The atmosphere between it was just probably like nothing they've had before. It was just so incredible. And we're not even talking about Harinam there. We're actually talking about people doing the right thing, standing up. But it's much more than that. So many people have said the atmosphere is incredible, and I just stop at that point. And I just want to say, connecting that with the Krishna consciousness movement, I think could be potentially really good things. So that's me done for a bit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. Is there anything that you'd like to say now?
I think I'm going to give an overview of.
At the end?
Yeah, it's kind of like a summary understanding of. Yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah, if you could do that. So yeah, I'd like Gaura Prabhu, of course, was at the Canadian truckers protest, along with a handful of other committed devotees. So what I'd like to do now is open it up for discussion. We've been live now for one thing, Chris. You mentioned Ayendra, two things actually.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I found the reference to the lecture that you're talking about. And now
Yeah.
apparently in the database.io online, it's listed as being December the 7th,
Oh,
1966.
let me show you what it's got.
Yeah.
It's got. I mean, probably I'm just reading from this thing, but here, this is what it is.
Let me just make your screen big so we can see it. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring it up again.
Okay, so you can see here it says December the 6th, 1966 there.
Interesting.
Which is what I read out.
Okay. And then online it definitely says December the 7th. Interesting. Okay. Rewriting history somewhere. Anyway, I don't want to be conspiratorial about anything, but literally everything's a conspiracy. Let's get real here.
It could be true. I mean, the revising could be true. It might have been on the 7th. But,
yeah, be interesting to look into that further. So that was one thing. The other thing is you mentioned Ayendra Prabhu's book. Now, do you mean Ayendra Kirtan Revolution, or do you mean Ayendra's book? Okay.
No, this one by
Kalachandji.
That's right. Yes. Sorry.
Yes,
sorry.
Tamal Krishna Goswami's brother. Yeah, we're actually reading that book at the moment as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's. I mean, as I said it and thing. It's amazing how if you read a book twice, you get so much more out in the second reading. It comes together a lot more. I mean, first reading you're just taking a lot of things out, but then it's just that it's amazing how much more you can get in the second reading. That's just what I've experienced, because I had to do it. I mean, I gave a book review in Dhanesvara's book. I wouldn't have been able to do it anywhere near properly if I just done it all one reading. So,
Awesome. Thank you for that. It was actually your review that inspired me to get started on the book.
Wow.
Because I've got both books here, but I got so many books. Not as many books as Gaura does, but I got a lot of books, and I'm always reading several at the same time. So I'm reading Divine or Demoniac on my Kindle and on paper, and we're reading the Kirtan Revolution one together at night.
I mean, there are so many books. That's why I was thinking about. Book reviews can really help. If one does a decent book review, then that can help. There's so much information. But the thing is, as I was saying, the connections between something like David Icke and Krishna consciousness and this person, Dhanesvara, who's also on here, you read it yourself, but it goes through a lot of history. Well, history in ISKCON. I mean, I've read some other books like that from Henry Doktorski, but you really, I mean, at the end of the day, this guy's lived through it. 50 years beyond is. I mean, I can't do it justice by speaking, but he. I don't know, lost for words really, but I think I so far as the whole global conspiracy and Krishna consciousness is concerned, then this book, The Divine and Demoniac, really puts these two together really well. And this is what I was very interested in and stuff. And he's done research about the 1st century Vaishnavas and
I totally agree. Krishna consciousness and conspiracy, two great tastes that taste great together. Param Drishtva Navartate. I'd like to open it up now. To the panel, to whatever kind of points, reflections, whatever any questions, comments, whatever you're inspired to create. We've got like another 40 minutes, so we could take 30 minutes for open discussion, and then move into the summarization. So probably the easiest way to do this is if you just indicate that you want to talk, and I've got a piece of paper here. I'll write down. And okay, so we've got Dhanesvara Prabhu's got his finger up, and then Badarayana, and then Gaura Prabhu. It's the order I see him in. Gaura, okay. Okay, let's start from there. So Dhanesvara Prabhu, over to you.
Okay, yeah. So you started out by saying we're going to talk about conspiracy, and I meant to mention that in my opening round, and there's just too much else to think about. But conspiracy, we again understanding, how this world actually works. My segue into the the red pill, rather my first red pill experience, was when I learned how the economic system actually works. And when I understood that, I thought something's terribly wrong, because it can't really be like that, but it is like that. So then what's going on? There's a lot more going on than meets the eye. So what they do, the demons are extremely intelligent, and they create a situation where we have no idea how we're being controlled, right? The perfect slave is the one who doesn't know that he's enslaved. And we just look at this world and we think that this is the way it's supposed to be. Well, they hide in the shadows. They, they're never the front man. There's always somebody we point our fingers at, the politicians or the economists or somebody like that, or the warlords. But they're always behind the scenes. They do not show themselves. Now, this is typical of the demonic nature. In my Divine and Demoniac book, I have one chapter there, Who is a Devotee, or What is a Devotee? And there we see that not everybody who, let's say, the demons, they take the opportunity to put themselves in religious garb. And so this is a perfect disguise for them. They, as Bhakti Siddhanta wrote, the best chance of atheism to succeed in this damned age of Kali is in the perfect disguise of religion. And they've infiltrated every religion. They infiltrate everything, not just religion. They infiltrate everything. And I can tell you many stories about that. And then they control it from within. The KGB, they had a division called the Fifth Chief Directorate, and their job was infiltrate everything and control it from within. And in my first trip to Russia, I learned, take it or leave it, that our movement was infiltrated by the KGB in New York back in the early 70s. Okay. It's like David Icke. He collects all these whatever people saying, okay, you don't judge it, you just take it and file that away. But then we get to the point where we collect all these dots and they begin to form a picture. And then when you connect the dots, or let's say looking at the picture, you're looking at all the dots, you're able to see a picture, right? So this is called phalena parichite in Sanskrit, judging by the result. You look back and you see what the result is. And if that's the result, it certainly must have been the purpose, because that's what happened. So this is true not only for Christianity, but for, let's say, the first manifestation of the eternal religion in first century Palestine, and the Hare Krishna movement, the next manifestation of the eternal religion in 20th century America. So infiltration and disguise, this is how they operate. They do not tell the truth. They hide themselves in every possible way in order to carry out their dirty business. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. Let the others make some contribution. But don't think that, conspiracy is a theory. It's not a theory. It is a fact.
Yep, we're living in one of two conspiracies, the divine or the demoniac, and there's nothing else happening on the planet. I wake up every day and I go, I'm controlled opposition. Who am I being controlled by? Who's my handler? Is my handler a demon or a divine? And then their handler like that. Okay, next, Badarayana Prabhu.
So, good point, Dhanesvara. Yes. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, even Prabhupada mentioned these things, that even within the pure society of devotees, there are people in the guise that are representatives of Kali, and one has to be extremely discerning to suss that out. So that's one of our jobs. I wanted to comment on Chris. Chris, nice to meet you in person. Not exactly in person, but virtually meet you. What I gleaned from Chris Briscoe's discussion was your desire, Chris, to see how the essence of David Icke, as you said, he's spoke about the connecting the dots of the conspiracy of the global cabal for many, many years to the technocratic tyranny to dominate the planet and eliminate 90% of humanity so they can control the world according to their transhumanistic agenda. But at the end of the day, David Icke is a transcendentalist, a spiritualist, an impersonalist. But as you said, Prabhupada makes the distinction that it's a progressive level. Even Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, in the 12th chapter, when Arjuna asked him, what is higher, the meditating on the process of bhakti or meditating on the impersonal? Krishna describes that meditating on my personal form is the highest, but one who engages in the next verse, Krishna states that one who is engaged in the conception of the absolute as the impersonal beyond the material senses gradually will come to the highest realization. So even Krishna himself gives credence to that, although we realize it's not the highest. But what I hear you saying, Chris, is because David Icke, he makes this distinction that we are all particles of consciousness, divine consciousness, that we're not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the conceptions, the story that we have, our past. It's a ephemeral, temporary phantasmagoria that we identify and become attached to. But our real identity is the consciousness which supersedes the paradigm of our material reality. And that's what we have in common with this man. We also have that in common with the Christians. And you take people like Alex Jones, who has a huge platform. Millions of people tune into him every day. And the essence is a God consciousness. And so what I hear you saying, Chris, is somehow that the coming together of the different transcendentalists. And right now what I see is that the devotees of Lord Vishnu are not on the map, so to speak, in the Great Awakening movement. And ultimately, I feel that we are meant to be the leaders of that because we have a connection with the pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, as you said, Dhanesvara, who is the modern day representative of the eternal religion. And we have so much to offer in terms of guidance and leadership, and that we could work together as a coalition to bring about the Great Awakening within the Great Awakening. And really, that's what our business is, to expose the conspiracy, because as Srila Prabhupada stated in a couple of different lectures, that an intelligent person has to calculate the darker side in whether it's in a warfare situation or in business. One has to calculate, how am I going to be cheated, or how is the enemy working? In Sri Upanishad, it's stated that one who cultivates knowledge and nescience side by side can overcome that nescience by understanding how it's working and attain the full blessings of immortality. So our business is I see it as to develop a coalition of transcendental thinkers to come together to see that we're all on the same team here, to bring about this Great Awakening, the spiritual reawakening amidst the Great Awakening of the lies that we've been told, and that we must work together towards that. Chris, am I catching the drift of what you're saying in that regard?
I'm just on mute. Yeah, I'm on mute. Pretty much. Pretty much. I think I would just say that, well, in my opinion, from what I know, the person who seems to be leading charges, as it were, would be David Icke. There are so many people, but he is so much respected. He's been doing this for 30 odd years. So I would see Krishna consciousness and people as more, not so much leaders, but advisor to something like that. Now the Krishna consciousness thing is more profound. It's about developing and re-establishing love of God and things like that. But well, that's not things like that. That's it, isn't it? But to see, I mean, it's like when this thing blew up 3 years ago, how many devotees were suddenly, oh well, yes, we see through this. Not very many. Now that says something. So people who are aware can sort of see through and look and know where to look for to get the other side. Okay, there that says something as well. I think that's something that has to be remembered. I see a lot of why haven't devotees done it? Probably for the same reasons as you've had problems in ISKCON, and infiltration is a big thing. Whereas my personal opinion on that, I mean, in one of Dhanesvara's books, I think he speaks when in a divine demonic book. There's somebody who who's got the names. He's got the names, and Dhanesvara's saying, "Please give me the names." But the guy says, "No, look, I can't. Kill me or kill you," or something like that. So very sort of severe. But I think that there's so many misunderstandings from the philosophy, probably created by these infiltrators in the first place. And going through that, I think, is a big way forward. We've got so many at this current moment, so far as it with ISKCON, you've got so many Prabhupada disciples who have seen through this. I mean, I've been blown away this sort of last year. People like Gaura Das, who's trying to get all these Prabhupada disciples, and so many of them got, well, it's horrendous. We got kicked out of the movement in about 77, 78, and all, with what happened there, the Zona Chaz, and they, they're see through this. So there's so much wisdom there. They realise, the movement's gone the way it has, but they see some of the, they see a lot of the. They see a lot through a lot of the nonsense and can explain it to others. I mean, okay, there's disagreements and everything, but still, I think there's a big potential there. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's a great segue.
Or did I even answer your question? Actually, did I even answer your question? I don't know. I didn't. Out of the way, something, didn't I?
Yeah, what you said, just in a nutshell, you said, where I said that we should be leaders, you said leaders perhaps, but advisors also. So,
I think we need to establish ourselves
ultimately the Prabhupada established the Krishna consciousness movement to be the Brahminical leaders of society, to give guidance to society. But in that also, we can also be leaders, because we have for instance, Sitapati has become a very natural leader in this regard, and I greatly respect your taking this role, Sitapati. It's inspiring, and this is the type of we need this leadership based on the principles of the eternal religion of Sanatana Dharma that are given in the Vedic literatures and elucidated by Srila Prabhupada. So I think we're meant to be in the forefront here as leaders and as advisors.
I think we're like Kurukshetra, collecting like before the battle, they're collecting armies. We're collecting armies, the Pandavas, and so I think that should be is a focus of attention for this whole devotees and people in the worldwide truth movement. I think this is a big thing, trying to get them together, but also it has to be remembered that the whole concept of a god does put quite a few people off, because they will question, oh, hang on, what is this god? Is this a god who's out just for control? Because they've had so much experience about that. I mean, the teachings of Krishna, they are very profound, but people will question hard on that. So that's what That's what
That's
I
a
think.
great point. That's a great point, Chris. And I'd like to get Paul to speak to that, because that's a conversation that Paul and I have had a number of times. He's on the forefront. But before we go to that, a couple of things. We've got Gaura coming up, talking about devotees who saw through this thing from the very beginning, and also at the Canadian truckers protest. And also Gaura is responsible for bringing us all together. But before we go to you, Gaura, thank you for your acknowledgement, Badarayana Prabhu, of my leadership. And I acknowledge my wife, sent to me by Krishna, to empower me in this regard. And I'm in no doubt that that's exactly what's happened here. I went to the New Zealand Parliament protest and met her there in the kirtan, and we were married weeks later. And everything's just gone from there. So Krishna is putting the A team together, and here we are.
Yeah,
So Gaura,
you guys
over
don't
to you,
mess
Prabhu.
around.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Thank you, Badarayana Prabhu. Gaura, the floor is yours. You are, and Gaura is the great connector. He's the one who has put this this panel together. We're all here connected through him.
Itapati Prabhu, I'd like to thank you for introducing me to Paul Seils, who I've come to know a little bit more, and I look forward to knowing even more. When I saw the video that you sent me, that he where he stood up on a little platform, I think it was it in Wellington, downtown? Is that where that was done? Where you climbed up on a little podium?
That was outside Brisbane City Hall in May 2020.
Okay, yeah, and I was looking at you, and I was thinking, this man is a leader. This man should be the prime minister. Who is this person? He's great. Love it. I don't know. Did you have something to do with the speech, Sitapati Prabhu?
That was the first one that Paul and I worked on together. So nice. In this kind of combination that Chris was mentioning, if the Vaishnavas being the advisors, that was how that came about. I was like, okay, here's our player on the court. It's Paul. And here I am behind the scenes, and I can provide this this guidance. So we worked on that speech and a number of others together.
This is the spirit of Srila Prabhupada. This is why he created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So all varieties of people could come together with the common cause of pleasing the Lord. Okay, I have a few points I'd like to make. Because I haven't even seen an admission to fault. It's not that I need their apology, but I'd like to see their reassurance that, yeah, we really blew it. We really didn't do the research that we should have. And we'd like to apologize to the community. But no, there continues to be denial. As a matter of fact, I just had a GBC and another representative of the deputies basically telling me, just focus on chanting Hare Krishna. Just, do the things that we all joined this mission for. And I said, yes, I want to do that. But why have you distracted me and so many others by, becoming the sales rep for these pharmaceutical companies? So there was a big test. We had a big test, and I feel we largely failed by not acting as Brahmins. I mean, Srila Prabhupada, that book, Life Comes from Life, it shows him walking along Venice Beach there and the ocean, and he's slamming and smashing the materialistic scientists. And as soon as the demons put out their fear-mongering, so many go running to these speculative scientists as if there's some shelter in their chemical so-called medicine. So it's like, what have we been reading? Have we been reading the same books? I don't get it. So when I was invited to attend, I was looking at, I was thinking, oh, well, let's define terms here. What are we talking about when we talk about conspiracy? So according to Wikipedia, Wikipedia states that a conspiracy theory is an explanation for an event or situation that asserts the existence of a conspiracy by powerful and sinister groups, often political in motivation, when other explanations are more probable. So, I was wondering, okay, what are the devotees going to have to say about, because usually this term conspiracy theory is often used as a way to denigrate or dismiss whatever your particular view is. Merriam-Webster says that the conspiracy theory is a theory that explains an event or set of circumstances as the result of a secret plot by usually powerful conspirators. The conspiracy theories surrounding Kennedy's assassination, for example, and also a theory asserting that a secret of great importance is being kept from the public. And then finally, from dictionary.com, we have the definition. It's a theory that rejects the standard explanation for an event, in other words, mainstream media, and instead credits a covert group or organization with carrying out a secret plot, a belief that a particular unexplained event was caused by such a covert group, the idea that many important political events or economic and social trends are the products of deceptive plots that are largely unknown to the general public. So what continues to be frustrating, saddening, is to see that we're not all on the same page in the Hare Krishna movement. I know when I joined in 75, we were on a mission for God. We were like Marine commandos, hit the beach. We're ready to take a bullet for Prabhupada. And now we're willing to inject poison. And it's not even for Prabhupada. So I'm very grateful to all of you that I have your presence, that I have your support. Who was it that was mentioning? It was a Dhanesvara Prabhu that talked about security by taking shelter of the Lord. And I was thinking, and we should be able to say security by taking shelter of association with the Lord's devotees. But we see that has to be, that's select. As Srila Rupa Goswami states, when choosing association, spiritual association, one must find those who have affection for us or mutual affection, those who are like-minded, and those who are on the progressive path of spiritual advancement. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank you all for being present in my life. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu. The Divine Mama says, Hare Krishna, thank you. Please continue to make this series. More people are waking up. And Vaishnava Sevadas wants us to know that he is watching. Thanks for tuning in to both of you. And then Elizabeth Huss asked the question, were they approached and accepted the blood money? Sounds like a conspiracy theorist who believes that the world is actually run by powerful and hidden political and economic concerns. Crazy. Paul, I'd like to hear your reflections on the conversation so far, and particularly also your input on what Chris was saying about, the God problem. Yeah, this is so great. And like the preface for the conversation when we first started talking about creating the life and whether it's our life is creating it as a book or as hopefully a book becomes a movie. I've got a boat going past at the moment, but the irony is here we are at this point in time. I'm having a conversation on a boat with Hare Krishnas and spiritualists, transcendentalists, talking about the future and the creation. And Gaura, thank you for your acknowledgement. I was very moved and touched by that as well. And I'm very humbled to be here with you. And if we're present to the magnificence or the beauty or the grace of what's occurring at this point in time, it's really it could be quite overwhelming. And with what we've touched on in the conversation here as well, I've also had the pleasure of meeting people like David Icahn and interviewing them on several occasions, and people like John McAfee and that sort of thing. And got to spend some time in the US where I was doing the music and that sort of thing, got to speak on stages with people like Dr. David Martin. And I also want to acknowledge and mention the news about Dr. Rashid Buttar, who's allegedly to have passed recently and speculated to have been dealing with some sort of being poisoned. But I also got to meet and have dinner with him through an associate
for about 4 hours and talking about like what he's been dealing with and the medical profession and that sort of thing. I'm so truly blessed and honored to be part of people and be associated with people that are the underdogs and having the courage to stand up on all levels in all walks of life. You know what I mean? And within the microcosm as the macrocosm, and to be able to hear what you guys have been dealing with. The irony of that is this is the trial by fire, and this is what we need to go through to burn out the weeds, to like bring through the strength of the new leaders for the future. Unfortunately, this is the process, it seems, that we need to be able to go to be able to, the proverbial sorting out the wheat from the chaff. And yeah, I'm just still deeply saddened by the news of the potential passing of Dr. Rashid Buttar. He was very outspoken and literally like doing live streams like this and just like screaming at, telling people to wake up to what's happening. And yeah, I'm very much for the underdog and the outsider. And, you know, this whole thing about like the aspersions of creating projections onto people as being conspiracy theorists because other people are devoid of critical thinking. You know, this, I'm looking forward to leaving this stage and this paradigm that we're in at the moment. That's like, as it falls away and we move into a new future with grace. I'm really looking forward to this time. And I know a lot of us have been through, a lot of us here on this panel, but a lot of us in life have been through a lot. And Gaura mentioned about like trauma and that sort of thing as well, have been through a lot of challenges and adversaries and criticism and judgment and obstacles. And, you know, it's really, it's been very quite profound. And you couldn't have really written the dialogue for this movie without actually like walking it. And that's what they say about like the hero's journey or the spiritual's journey is, if we saw it all, we would never go. You know, if we saw it all at once, we would never go unless we like just walking one step and one stage at a time. So I'm really proud and honored to be part of this conversation and association with you all.
It's great. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We're at 1 hour and 50 minutes now. So let's have a look. Yeah, we'll take oh, let's pull this in. Oh, someone else has joined. I'll Dhanesvara for a second time. Okay, let's pull this in. The Divine Mama says, Jwalamukhi Devi Dasi has so courageously provided her reflections after being sexually abused as a child by her Krishna conscious family members. I don't know how Krishna conscious you are if you do something like that. She speaks of this infiltration, extraterrestrials and demon beings. And Canadian guy with the pranam mantra, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nevishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. I offer my respectful obeisances to Bhaktivedanta Swami, to the lotus who sits at the feet of Lord Vishnu and is very dear to Lord Krishna. Obeisances to the servant of Saraswati, who is preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya and has come to deliver the Western countries from impersonalism and voidism. We may have to dive deeper into the God problem in another episode. I mean, there's so much material for us to churn on this, right? This is an ongoing conversation. But yeah, I'd like to now for us to just, I'm going to bring Dhanesvara Prabhu back in on his secondary device. And we're going to go to wrapping up now. So I'd like to go around, take everyone's reflections on the conversation, any final words, and what you're taking away from it. And do you want to go now, or would you like to go at the end?
Maybe we'll go now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So during the conversation, I have the many, understandings and realizations, and also I can see myself from the point of view of other people, like, for example, not being non-devotee and also being a devotee right now in the Krishna conscious movement. Prabhu Dhanesvara Prabhu, you mentioned about like the characteristics and the personalities of the demoniac and the divine. And mostly you touch about the characteristics of the demoniac civilization, also the personality, characteristics of the personality of these people. So we can see here what I see, that what you mentioned is characteristics of the conquest, slavery. They want to increase their pleasure. They want to create a religion in order to control people, and through money also, and also controlling the government. And the type of personality of these people, I think this is very important for any person that is hearing now. And if you can share as well, because this being self-aware, it will help you to pick up so quickly about the type of people you're dealing with. And Paul, you mentioned critical thinking. It is very important for us to have this critical thinking ability, because without this, we're going to be the objects of being manipulated, dominated, and who is going to suffer? It is the person who is giving the power to these demoniac people. I can see, this is my observation, I can see in the Hare Krishna movement, that is not actually what Srila Prabhupada built and taught. I can see these personality things. We can see what's happening right now in the movement. Psychopaths, they said they have no conscience. They don't want to be stopped. And if you stop, they will start denigrating you. They will start attacking you for every way possible. And we can see that. And we see this necrophile personality. They want to just destroy what is organic, what is pure, and change it. And also the malignant narcissist personalities. They are so manipulative. And they know exactly your weakness. They see you and they know. And in order for you to understand who you're dealing and how to empower yourself is actually knowing, self-awareness. And so these characteristics, they like to disconnect from who you are. They're self-destructive. By doing so, they don't feel happiness themselves. Yet they want to create unhappiness, disconnection with the person, the object. And the way how they manipulate is psychologically, emotionally, they like to control and manipulate. And they're amazing at that, to the point that you're not even realizing that you've been manipulated. And we can see with these so-called swamis, how they, the way they're controlling now, I'm not many people, there will be a bit of like put back by this. They use the sastras to actually guilt trip, justify, and also guilt trip you with your behavior. You shouldn't be doing this. You should be, the sastra says this, and you should be doing that. So it's minimizing your power of thinking, your critical thinking. The other thing I have observed here is they are demasculinizing the man. And once you are demasculinized, basically you are powerless. You have no sense of yourself as a man, because as a man you have this fighting spirit, you won't have it. And they will shuffle the scriptures and specific parts of the scriptures to say, you should not be doing this. And you be mindful of this. And for women, they're excellent at manipulating women. And women right now in the Krishna conscious world, they're hypnotized, absolutely hypnotized. And because they know the characteristics of women, they are loving, caring, they will serve, they're actually right there. Without noticing that these people, these infiltrators, like I think Paul Seils, you mentioned about these infiltrators, they know exactly how they're playing. And how can we know and how can we realize these people are not actually who they meant to be, who the scripture says a guru is like this? We know. We have to know. We have to read 1,000 times about this. The way they talk, the way they direct themselves, the way they walk. I mean, when they say they walk, it's not like the steps they give. It's more about like how they conduct themselves. It is contradictory to what is the scriptures. One clear example. It is a recent example that is getting more exposed, and the people that are incriminated in this is Swami is the rapist, raping children, and Swami is knowing about this, and the victims are putting out there that this is happening, and they're not doing anything about it. What is telling you? The scriptures doesn't say, hey, do not do anything about children and the victims complaining. You just minimize them, they just ignore them. No, it says you fight for the children. Women and children need protection. Now, by the masculinizing the men, the fighting spirit won't be there. So the satrias will be controlled by these sastras. So we have to be extremely careful. And this is probably Dhanesvara Prabhu and anybody who would like to be more involved in this, is understanding their behavior, how they are, and who they are. We can expose them, and so people can wake up, because this is a time, this is a war. And when you are in war, you're not going to sit up in the house, close the doors, and pretend nothing is happening, because sooner or later you will have to face that, and it's not going to be nice. Now, there was someone, thing was Chris Briscoe, you were mentioning, we need leaders. Yes, we do need leaders right now. For what? Exactly for this, because Krishna says Satriyas, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, there is a category of this. Satriyas actually are not right now out there. We have Brahmanas, but the real Brahmanas will come out. Because the divine is saying, what do you do for people? What Krishna says we need to do is a Brahmana follows through. And Brahmanas are leaders in that aspect too. And Satriyas are leaders in the way they put forward what actually has to be done. And was another one, also I think was Chris Briscoe that you were mentioning about. Many transcendentals, two types of transcendentals when you read the book. Yes, there are. Also, we have to be mindful that even if you read the book of Bhakti Sastra Swami, he was, way ahead of what's happening right now, and he explained about the natures and what actually is happening here. There are many entities, and perhaps you can see yourself in this, that you have taken birth in this earth to do a specific task, because you were put in this time for you to do what you're doing now. You may be aware of that. You may not be aware yet of that. But you have a purpose in this life. And you may have the characteristics of demigod. We can see many leaders in this world. Doctors, they are not Christians, whatever, but they know exactly what is happening, and they are bringing forward. In that way, they are fulfilling what they're meant to be fulfilling, for the people to follow and wake up. There is the highest spiritualists like Christians, or Hare Krishnas, or other ones that are putting to what is right, what the teachings are, the Bible, or the what is the other shastras?
Quran.
The Quran. They're putting forward, they're coming forward. We must do this. So you can see different leaders in different areas are doing the best to make sure people understand to the level of consciousness, to the level of understanding. So we're not going to minimize them. We're just going to say they are our brothers in this world fighting for what actually is what God wants us to be, growing in the same environment like a brothers and sisters, because we come from the same father. And also, I think was Chris Briscoe, he said, why devotees haven't act on it? It's a great question. Why devotees haven't act? Knowing all of this happening, and I have to say, I knew all of this. The moment I read Srila Prabhupada's book and what his predictions says, I know what he's doing. I know what he's preparing for us. And he was specific what to do. This is a war. This is what you need to do, because this is the way they're doing. This is the way they think, and you must act on it. And now, and what happened? We haven't. Why? That is the question. So there are many aspects why we haven't acted on it, but we're doing it right now by exposing things, by talking about it, and making people self-aware, and also connecting people that are in the same area, or maybe the level of thinking is quite similar. We have to connect. Without this, without the instruction Srila Prabhupada, the basic living or the simple living, and growing our own food, connecting between devotees and non-devotees that are with the same mentality, that is the way of clamping up. Because what they do in this demonic mentality, they do not want that. The moment they separate you, you have no power. By yourself, you won't be able to fight the way a group fights. So this is the way we have to do it.
This was a powerful point as well.
Yeah.
Like that.
And this that was Paul Seals, Superficial Security, about banks, money, and
Rather than community.
We can see that many people right now watching, talking, about this. And great that you, Paul Seals, you bring in, and also all of you. They are so expert and so intelligent at doing what they're doing. They know how to control, and they know exactly what takes for you. Money is the big deal right now. If you don't have money in the banks, if you don't have any jobs, they will demoralize you. Your self-esteem will go down. You will get so worried that to the point like, oh, this is the only people that I can go and get money from them and be under control of these people. The only way to get out of this system is actually not participating in that. And how are we going to do? Clamp yourself with the people that are in the same thinking. With devotees, non-devotees, let's leave our differences aside. But we need to do this one. Without this, we cannot. The communities, they don't want the communities, because if you don't do this community, if you are not self-sufficient, we're going to control you. But if you are, they have absolutely no say. What do you do? What do you eat? Whether you're going to have money, whether you don't have money, they don't. Because you have gained your own power. You have taken your own power, because the only way these people thrive is because you're giving your power. They're not taking your power. You are giving the power by accepting that. And this is the characteristic of malignant narcissists. This is the characteristic of psychopaths. It is amazing how they are. I think we need to discover more or talk about the psychology and how these people act, so we can understand more about this, the characteristics of these people. And I think was Badarayana. Sorry, Prabhu. Where you mentioned about the trauma directed into I don't know who, but sorry, I don't remember a specific your list. There's one thing. This is the two ways that is working in my observation, and also through your talk. Although they're extremely clever, these demoniac characteristics or personalities, by controlling and by suffocating you, also what they're doing is making sure you come with this strength and power. So it works both ways. They will never win because of this. They will do that, but sooner or later, you will get the power of yourself to the point it's like, okay, you give us to this point where we want to depend on you, but at the same time, we will not depend because we know what is our power. This is the trauma effect. You have a trauma, you go through hardship, and then you start developing your resilience, you come your true self, and through that you will come up to be a different person. And it's exactly what they're doing. They're putting us through the difficulty but we'll come up as victorious because we'll come a different aspect of ourselves. We come who we are, the true characteristics, the qualities that we have. They don't see it. They may see it. I don't know, but it's in the long term. It will come to this point, to the point they will self-destruct themselves. This is what exactly happens even if we read the scriptures. They will, by doing whatever they do, and they destroy themselves. They have no peace. People come together at the end, and we win. And I don't know if I can explain better this. Maybe next time I will explain better this. And yeah, this is my observation.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay. How about we go around? What is this direction? Oh, let's go clockwise. So, Gaura Prabhu, you're up next. And unmute.
Okay.
You're on.
Yeah, so you asked me previously to address, there were two things, but the one thing I remember you asked me to address was the truckers' protest in Ottawa that Jivan Mukta Prabhu and I attended, as well as Pradyumna Prabhu, Vedavyas Prabhu, and others coming from Montreal. So we all converged together, driving several hours on February, whatever it was, 25 below zero weather. So contrary to all the distorted reporting by the government-owned CBC or Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the thousands of people I met in the streets in front of the Canadian Parliament buildings were very kind, jolly, friendly. They were not drunk. They were not angry. They were not threatening. It was devoid of violence, contrary to the way some of our Canadian ISKCON authorities describe them. They were there in a spirit of community, mutual support. ISKCON authorities in Canada were influenced by the lies of mainstream media, discouraging all devotees from attending the truckers' protest. But I saw it as a marvelous opportunity to do Harinam for thousands. We could have distributed tons of hot khichdi and halava, but unfortunately, due to the effects of fear mongering through the media, our opportunity to really bond with the people was impeded. As in general, I guess what I'd like to conclude with is I would like to hear more about positive steps that we can take, because people are living in trauma. They don't know what's going to happen from one day. You know, what tricks do the demons have up their sleeves? What cards have they not revealed yet? And of course, we know from the transcendental perspective, we must always chant the holy name of the Lord. There we're deathless, we're fearless. We must read the books of Srila Prabhupada. But it seems that there's a necessity to find like-minded souls and come together and get land, start growing food. I mean, I just was in the grocery store today and I saw a number of items and I thought, what, $6 for a pineapple? Forget it. I won't eat pineapples anymore. And so much. And I thought, it's getting too expensive to eat anymore. This is bizarre. So, this movie, what is it called? The Power of Community, about when Russia left Cuba and then the people went into a state of confusion initially because they were so much dependent on peak oil and the Russian ships bringing in all supplies. But when they started working together and helping each other to grow food, and they were given land by which to grow food, what they realized was that as soon as the oil-driven economy went away, everyone started coming together and connecting and mutually helping one another. So it was like the boogeyman, had gone away. So, I'd like to see more and more broadcasts about what steps can we take in our various communities to become more aligned with like-minded, because it's very difficult to have a conversation with someone who is in denial and thinks that we're a bunch of, conspiracy theorists who, are that we're the ones that are living in fear and that they're the intelligent ones who are taking shelter of the demons. It's, I guess, part of the script that you were talking about in the movie that we're living in. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaura Prabhu. Over to you, Badarayana Prabhu.
Okay, thanks, Gaura. Yeah, a couple points. One, that something that I was reflecting on Paul's speech and Dhanesvara's initial, even though I caught the end of it, I caught the gist of it, that what threat we are facing, for instance, Paul spoke about, imagine living in this digital currency experience where everything is controlled. We know from understanding the documents of the so-called psychopathic elite controllers of the world, the 1% of the 1%, as David Icke calls the global cult. Just like, for instance, the Rockefellers, they funded Mao Zedong and his Cultural Revolution, where he killed, I'm not sure the exact amount, but it was around over 40 million people. That was funded by the Rockefellers. Why? Because the idea of a totalitarian surveillance state is very attractive to the global controllers, the Asuric controllers of the world. So if we want to visualize what it's like living in that reality, or George Orwell said, what is the future? Imagine the future, it's a boot stomping on your face. And that is communist China, the CCP. In communist China, there's literally countless surveillance cameras. You can't go more than 30 seconds without having face recognition. They know where everyone is at all times. They have the social credit score. If you say something against the government, if you say something that's religious in nature, your social credit score will be canceled. You can be hauled off to a camp where your organs are harvested. That's the future that we're looking at. And if you fast forward that in the woke culture that we're living at, as theists, as devotees of the Lord from whatever tradition, they want to stamp that out too, because theism or God consciousness is the enemy of the atheists. And the scientism, dataism, AI, transhumanism is a atheistic paradigm. They want to stamp out the expression of yearning for God or yearning for the spirit. So that's the world we're going to be living in if we don't stand up to this. So how do we stand up to it? First, by coming together as we are today, by discussing it very threadbare from all different perspectives, and developing a collaborative spirit of like-minded truth tellers and spiritualists who wish to present a new reality. And as Gaura said, and as Dhanesvara stated, part of what we can do, part of the solution, is fortify ourselves spiritually. Prabhupada talked about a cultural revolution whereby we take the process of chanting this mantra, this Hare Krishna mantra, or you can chant any name of God. It gives the soul great power because it awakens the soul. The soul is brilliant as the sun because it is part of the supreme spirit of the absolute truth. There is immense power in that. And anyone can take that into the home. Just like Prabhupada said, one doesn't, in Conway Hall in 1975, Prabhupada was speaking in London to a large group. He said, you don't have to prosecute this Krishna consciousness in a temple, in a monastic situation. You can take it into the home. And so we can encourage everyone to follow the spiritual practice of chanting, of vibrating the mantra to release the mind from so much misconception and gain spiritual power. Because why? We need to be spiritual power if we're to become spiritual warriors. And each one of us is meant to become a spiritual warrior in this time where we have to really overturn the existing paradigm. So that's what we're meant to do. I think we can encourage everyone to have this cultural revolution of bringing this chanting of the holy name in whatever tradition one is in, into the home, and coming together as collaborative spirits, as collaborative individuals from different vantage points in societies. Like we have Paul here, we have Chris here, we have the devotees here, we have so many different people represented. We can come together with the spirit of speaking the truth and of becoming empowered spiritually, so we can overturn this force that we're up against and create a new vision of the future, and do that as empowered servants and instruments of the Supreme Being.
Joe, fantastic. Thank you, Prabhu. Over to you, Dhanesvara.
Can you unmute me, please? Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Okay, good. Thank you for bringing together this panel. I especially enjoyed having this Paul and Chris here. Because as a devotee, I associate with devotees, and our world is the same all the time. We don't get often the opportunity to get the perspective of what the common people are experiencing or thinking. You can read a little bit, or you hear a little bit from various videos and so on, but it's really nice to have this conversation, to hear directly and to be able to reciprocate or in conversation with each other. So I really appreciate that. The other thing is, coming together like this, we develop a synergy, and I have to say that this conversation has been quite inspiring for me. In fact, the words came out of my own mouth because I realized by replying to Paul that we have the solution. Now, Srila Prabhupada explained what is the solution. And the solution is to live simply on the land, right? So people are thinking, what are they thinking, right? The boot stomping on the human face forever, and they don't see a way around that. But we can see a way around that, okay? How we're going to get there, that's not up to us, okay? We know what we want to do. We know where we want to go. Krishna is the facilitator for all of these things, and certainly he's going to see that happen. So by coming together, by sharing our understanding, our perceptions, our perspective, then it creates a fertile ground for more ideas to grow and for us to see a way forward. So the way forward is very clear, and we have to, this is, I think, is my main takeaway from this. We have to understand our role in helping people to understand this happy future and to go there and embrace it without kicking and screaming, trying to hold on to the past. This past is going to go. Like they said before, right, at the 2020, there's no going back to the old way. And they meant that. And thank goodness, because the old way didn't serve the people of the world. The old way was simply serving the elite. So let's circle our wagons. Let's work together. Let's understand where we are going, help each other. And from each of us, we do our part, whatever that is. That's all we can do. And again, right, we're in this movie. We don't know the script. We're trying to figure out our own role. And, trying to, sometimes we make mistakes, but we're getting it. The Lord's in the heart. He's giving us direction. And we know we're going to be successful. So let's go forward with that in mind. And, we have to, can you see this? The spiritual revolution, right? So we have to bring about a spiritual revolution. And that spiritual revolution is predicted by Lord Chaitanya, that everyone will become blissful in chanting the holy name. And I envision a time when people are so freaked out, they're going, oh, they've lost all of their fallible soldiers, right? Their job, their money, their relationships, their health, maybe. No fallible soldiers left. So what do? Oh, let's turn to God. What a concept. Okay, yes. However, you do it sooner, you do it later, it doesn't make any difference. But let's turn to God, bring him into the picture, and that's the game changer. So thank you again, every one of you for your association. I'm so happy to have been able to participate here.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Bhakti Sastra Chris Briscoe, over to you. Oh, you're going to need to unmute yourself, Chris, because you muted it, so I can't unmute you from here.
Got you.
You're live.
Okay. That Bhakti Sastra I did 10 years ago, and I can tell you, I'd learned a lot more from the Bhagavad Gita, sort of reading it myself, pretty much. Pretty much, really. But just to repeat, I think a lot of people are saying in their summaries is the coming together with people among different disciplines will make it stronger. It's one has to be specific about that, and so just to give you like some examples, like Gaura was talking about the power of the community, but also very difficult to have conversations with people who are in denial. We all had experience in that, really big thing. And one thing is with David Icke, he put a word to this. There was a word he put from I think a Native American tribe, the Cree tribe, called Wetiko, and that's a mind virus. And I've got a copy of a book, not David Icke's book, but somebody wrote something about it. If I can get it on the screen, this is this is the book. Now, okay, it's written by somebody called Paul Levy, but as a lot of these books, they have forwards by other people. And there's a lady called Chris Catherine Austin Fitz, who she's another speaker. Some of you will know her. First, I'll just give you this example of what I'm trying to say. She says in her foreword, it's just a few lines. In 1977, a strategic planning group at the CIA made a visit to my company in Washington, D.C. They brought with them a woman whose job and title were classified. I was not allowed to know them. Upon listening to my presentation on how to strengthen the American economy by transforming our investment model, she looked at me and said, "You know what your problem is? You don't understand where evil comes from. My search to understand evil and its transformation is what attracted me to Paul Levy's invaluable work." Okay, so he's going to talk about that here, but also the devotees will remember from Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna asks Krishna, why are people committing these acts? What impels them to do this? Now, I can't remember the reference, but you guys will know. And Krishna just says, Krishna says, it's lust, which is the overwhelming enemy of mankind. Lust as opposed to love. In other words, materially motivated. And there are many levels of that. I mean, in my opinion, you talk about when you're getting into reptilians, you're going to be beings with so much lust. So it's like that, I think. So that concept of Krishna conscious concept can start to add another dimension or point of perspective of somebody who's reading this book, thinking, hang on, what is that? What is evil? What is lust? So this is something to consider that may not be considered. I mean, so that's one example, and one example of different perspective. And another somebody, I can't remember who it was, put up, might have been Sitapati, does put up this book by Sadhaputta, Richard Thompson, Alien Identities. And I mean, just this last book I put up, but this is something by it's about abductions by a lady called as an American Native American lady called Ann R.D. Six-Killer Clark, and she basically she's interviewing Native Americans. Her first book was Native Americans who are on a reservation, but this one that I held up was Native Americans off a reservation, about their UFO experiences. Many of them, quite a few of them, will forget, but some people actually remember what happened. You know, and they meet these greys and these reptilians. You know, these reptilians. So these things, people do have experience of them. This is a big thing, and so this, yeah, there's some kind of I think discussion that can get in, that can happen, some sort of engagement, and there will be, I think there's going to be points of similarity, points of difference, but I think the key thing, it doesn't matter, there's a point of difference, and you might disagree, there may be disagreements. The most important thing in a disagreement is to actually see, okay, one may not agree, but where exactly actually is the disagreement? That's the most important thing first, before deciding how it actually affects it. Oh my goodness, you said that. Oh no, it's not so much that. I think important is to see whether more important where the disagreement is. I think that's a way round quite a lot of this heartache. I think many of us have had with dealings with people that can't see things. Yes, so. Yeah. Anyway, that's just one thought. But yeah, it's just the getting together. And what I've taken from this, I suppose personally, the experience of talking amongst such elevated personalities. People, you know, that's amazing thing. I haven't really done this before for a long time. I've done bits and pieces, but I had to tell my wife. I think my wife. Anyway, I won't get into that, but she knew I was on tonight, so she's fine with that. So, but I want to thank everyone for we're just doing this. It's just brilliant to be able to talk about all this. You know, personally, probably won't. Yeah, I mean, see Paddy set this up. It's fantastic. I mean, I mean, in a way, I'm glad I'm on this, because I'm not sort of going through it again. It takes me a few days to go through bit at a time, so I'm quite pleased to be on this. But the work Dhanesvara has done in his, not just this Divine Demonic, but he's written other books as well, incredible. So I would like to say, really above all, from my perspective at least, to thank Dhanesvara for all the work he's done. Incredible. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Chris. Over to you, Paul Seils Jr.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we've covered a lot of ground in the last couple of hours, and it's interesting. One of the last conversations that I had with the interview that I did with David Icke as well, he touched on and talked about Watiko as well, Chris, and talked about the directives coming off planet with human collaborators, etc., which is really a bit of a quantum jump for people to have to consider. But I was also having the conversation pre my speech for yesterday for the We Are Ready rally with Dhanesvara. Please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But there was a point in time where humanity didn't really have a name for aliens. They were all considered devils or demons. And yeah, it's a very interesting time at the moment, and I think the veil is getting very thin at the moment. And I also did a tour where I spoke around Australia with a gentleman by the name of Ian R. Crane back in 2014, and he talked about the concept for these Luciferians, like this concept of decloaking. They're becoming so brazen at the moment. They're not even, if you look at music, being involved in music and the Grammy Awards and that sort of thing, it's becoming so overtly. It's becoming so overtly demonic and Luciferian that people are not even questioning it anymore. And I think to watch a world devolve, as it must do, to reconstruct with a sense of purity, in a world where people are not even like questioning the existence of evil or demons or whatever, it's like that's almost becoming normalized. And I think the part of this conversation that I've really got present to as well is the appreciation and gratitude for all of you, not only of what you've been through, but your belief systems. And it's sort of, to a certain degree, not removing the magic from it, but like demystifying the concept of like the Hare Krishnas, because it was like really obscure for me to a certain degree of what it was. And I remember being a kid watching like sort of Hare Krishnas sort of dance down the street chanting or whatever, and then go off to Govindas or whatever. I was like, that's a bit weird. But now it makes more sense than ever. You know what I mean? And I think what I'm getting out of this conversation as well that we've had today is that there is contrary to what the technology that's being projected onto us, there is much more that we have in common than what we give ourselves credit for. You know what I mean? And I think that's the connection as well. And in relation to what we're going to be dealing for this transition as we head towards the rest of the decade for 2030, is that I say to people as well, you've got to stay connected to your intuition as they attempt to completely dominate us by technology and artificial intelligence. The only thing that we'll have to pull us through this transition is our connection to our own intuition. And that's our connection to Source, God, Krishna, Buddha, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it for yourself. And that to be able to pull us through and just know that the artificial intelligence doesn't have the ability to be able to control or dominate or interfere or pollute or interfere with that. And for us to be able to stay connected through it however we can through our spiritual practices is foundational moving forward. And I do say in my presentations, if you don't believe in spiritual warfare, you better get behind someone who does. And I acknowledge you, for all of you, for the journey that you've been through and the stand that you've been for doing the right things and doing the right thing in being suffering and being projected into the adversity that you've all experienced as well. So I really acknowledge you all for that. And I'm really quite grateful and humbled to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Paul. Just to build on something that you said there about something that we all have in common, and Dhanesvara Prabhu mentioned the common people. Here we have, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, out of 1,000 men, hardly one is interested in self-realization. And then out of 1,000 of them, only one knows me in truth. So here we have a panel, and also I'm including Badarayana Prabhu, even though he's had to drop off because he's at his event. A panel of uncommon people connected to a diverse and wide range of networks and communities of humanity who all have something in common, and that is that we are committed to the divine future rather than the demoniac future timeline on this planet at this time. Paul, I want to ask you a question. Would it be possible for us to end today's stream with your song, or would we get a copyright strike if we did that?
You're quite welcome to use it. If you do get a copyright strike, just notify them that you have my permission to be able to use it. That's no problem.
Okay, great. This is high wire kind of stuff. I've never tried this, but I think I'm going to be able to pull it into the stream and play it. Before we do that, we're going to ride out on Paul's hit single, Hold the Line, Conspiracy Country at its finest, recorded in Nashville with some of the best country musicians in the world, and went to #1 on the US country charts. A few words from the crowd, the common people out there, people who have something in common with us. That's what we mean when we say the common people. We're talking about people who are committed to the divine future timeline on the earth right now. Here's our daughter, Isabella, aka Isha. She says, "Woo, go parents." Elizabeth Huss, who's tuning in, has a show on iHeartRadio, Freedomizer Radio, every Sunday, taking back our food news and health. Mother Govinda Dasi's listening in. She's responsible for the name of the #1 Hare Krishna podcast in the world, Vaishnava Voices. She's going to design a logo and get stickers printed. Propaganda is the essence, so people know about it and distribute it at the upcoming festival. Elizabeth lets us know that light shines through the darkness. Govinda Dasi points out that the Earth planet has special significance because from here, sacrifice can be done and thus power can be acquired.
That's awesome.
That's a great, the structure of the universe, the middle planet, that whole thing. That could be a whole episode in itself. Elizabeth advises us to visualize and manifest, never consent to evil. She's very blessed to have met all of us. Fantastic conversation. Tim Marwick's tuned in. He wants to know, are the reptilians genetically distinct from humans? How about the Asuras? We're going to have to do a whole thing on
More
that.
about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Let's have a look. Elizabeth says, remember, prayers are your greatest weapon. From me, to summarize from this here, really, there's not really much more for me to say other than thank you. And I acknowledge each and every one of you as the courageous warrior that you are, and that you are serving the divine mission on the earth at this time. Thank you. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.
We will win.
Yes, we win in this timeline. Let's see if we can get this to play out.
You just might need to enable the sound to play.
Coming through now?
No sound at the moment.
How about now? You got the sound coming through?
No sound. You might have to restart.
Scroll it back
It's in
to
the
the beginning.
settings.
Let me know if you can hear it.
No, I've got no sound here.
Yes. No?
Nope. Okay. Thanks for bearing with us here, folks. This is a
Yeah, it'll
A
be in
world
the
first.
share settings.
hang on a
Yes.
second. I'll go down here. Now let's see if this works today. Now sound?
No.
No.
Okay. That's okay. So the audio is coming through my microphone. If I do this, this is going to be kind of weird. It's a weird way to do it, but rock and roll never dies like the soul. How about this?
This is our last stand. Now we win this fight. Steady sovereign soldiers, ready through the night. We the people awaken, defending what's just and right. Fortifying our freedom, one voice for the light. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, be strong. Till you hear the victory song ringing in the break of dawn. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, stay strong. Hold the line, hold the line, hold on. As the battle rages on, we make our voices heard. Facing fallen angels, we speak the holy word. Destroying evil forever, never to be enslaved again. Billions of us rising, united to the very end. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, be strong. Until you hear victory song, bringing in the break of dawn. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, stay strong. Hold the line, hold the line, hold on. We the people, heart and hands, reaching out across the land, with love at our command. Hold on, hold on. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, stay strong. Until you hear the victory song, bringing in the break of dawn. Hold the line, hold on. Hold the line, stay strong. Hold the line, hold the line. Hold the line, hold on.
Jai.
Thanks, guys. Much love.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dhanesvara. Thank you, Gaura. And thank you, Badarayana Prabhu. We love you. Go with Krishna. As Swanee Jules says, Maha Mantra always. To our viewers, thanks for tuning in. Param Vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna.